Welcome to the Father Alchemist. This is a show about karma, surrender, and transformation. It doesn't matter what you're struggling with. It could be motivation, money, vices of any kind, drugs, alcohol, porn, shopping, food, your health and fitness, family and kids, spirituality, your business, career, anything mind, body, spirit. The Father Alchemist is a show that will help you transmute and use all that pain to create the gold version of you, the best version of you. We're bringing in some of the top minds to give you a different perspective, to make you think, and most importantly, to help you change from the inside out and the outside in. The goal of the show is to give you support in your journey to becoming the best you in all areas of your life, so you can be proud of the individual you are and not held from being the greatest version of yourself. Please follow me at The Father Alchemist on Instagram and follow the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If this show gives you value, a fresh perspective, if it makes you laugh or makes you think differently, please rate the show on your favorite podcast app, share it, like it, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Now let's make some magic happen.
A lot of people where I'm from don't make it out. I know that I'm blessed. It's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a check.
So for those of you that don't know, Tanya and Tina Freed, I met Tina when she first got into real estate a few years ago. She went to work with Keller Williams. We've developed a relationship, and I've always felt like from the beginning, I'm like, this girl's got it. And I think, as a lender coming from a place of like meeting with a lot of agents and talking to a lot of people that are experienced and have seen a ton of success, all the way to people that are brand new, just got their license, going, where should I go hang the license? There's just sort of like an instinct you pick up on, and I don't ever try to prejudge anyone in that way, but at the same time, you just sort of have a sense of like somebody that you think is going to do well. And I'm glad that we're sitting here several years later and you have done well, and you've made a transition away from Keller Williams, and you've teamed up with your mom. And I also really think that the mission that you guys have decided to connect with for your business, when we were sitting in that coffee shop, I thought that was awesome. And I think that it's unique because a lot of people that get into real estate think about one thing, and that's money, right? Because you can make a lot of money in the business, and there's a lot of great agents out there, but I'm just glad that you guys are here, and it just means a little bit more to me than I think most podcasts that I've been filming. And so we're going to get into it. But for those that don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself, tell the world who you are, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that was so kind of you. I think I felt the same way when we first met. So I am Tanya Freed. I am the daughter of a mother-daughter real estate team. We are currently with Lux Denver Real Estate Company. We'll probably get into more of like our mission and what we've teamed up with later. Been in the business for 3-4 years now. Absolutely love it. I was born and raised here in Lakewood, Colorado, not too far from where we're sitting right now. And yeah, that's kind of briefly about me. Tina, do you want to share about you for a minute?
Where are you from, Tina?
I was born in Ohio, but I have been in Colorado since I was a little girl, and that has been a long, long time ago. We're not going to get into years, but I'm pretty much a native here. I started out living in Durango, and I moved to the Denver metro area about 42 years ago now. So all the girls, I have 3 daughters, and they were all born and raised here, right in the Lakewood area. Always been an entrepreneur since my teens. Always pretty much worked in areas of service to the community and families. And so, yeah, really happy to be in business with my daughter. Love Lux Denver, our company, and all of our support, our lenders. Derek, your team is amazing. And yeah, I just I basically I'm getting older now. I'm the support in this project, but my daughter Tanya is really the lead, and she is definitely you wouldn't have guessed it years ago, but this is her calling. This is what she's good at and what she needs to stay with, and I'm really glad to be a part of it.
I can't remember. Did you get her into it, or did she get you into it, or a little bit of both?
So, like I said, I've always been an entrepreneur. I was in property management when the girls were small,
Right.
and I did Section 8 and Section 236 housing.
Okay.
And so then my husband has been in construction. His family's been in construction. So we built a couple homes. We, always kind of been in that field for a lot of years. I got my license first after coming out of another career of kind of in-home health management.
Okay.
And and then COVID hit, and that's Tanya's story.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
So, what made you leave Durango? What a beautiful place.
My mother, who was a single mom most of my life, had moved to Denver, and she, I being the oldest, she always needed some support, and I had just started college over there, and my mother was here by herself. My brother broke his leg. I moved here and met Tanya's father, and stayed.
Rest is history.
That's
yeah.
it.
40-some years.
Okay. Durango's such a special place.
I love
I
it.
spent some time out there. We were camping. Is it the Animas River that runs through Durango?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, camped at the Animas River. And then also there was a hotel, I can't think of the name, on the corner of the downtown. It used to be a brothel, they told us,
the
years
Strader
ago.
Hotel.
Huh?
The Strader
The Strader Hotel, that was it. And they say that in Durango there's some sort of energetic pull. Have you heard of this before? What is that all about? Because I felt it.
It's really,
I was dizzy when I got out of the car when I showed up to Durango. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really old Western, it was one of the older towns initially in the Colorado area, I think. And, it's surrounded by mountains, and, it was a lot of ranchers and stuff that settled there.
Sure.
And there's still a lot of big ranches there, and the river, and the old railroad, that runs through there.
Yeah.
Durango's just got a lot of, my oldest daughter actually, and Tanya went to college over there for a little while, and my oldest daughter and two of my oldest grandchildren live over there today. And river raft at Animas, and do all the mountain biking and snowboarding and all the beautiful things. And I'm actually hoping to get Doug and I a little place over there so we can kind of hang out now that the kids are going to be in school there for a few years. So, yeah.
I have to interject because Tina, I call her Tina since we're in business, and she always says Doug and I. So for people that don't know, Doug is my father.
Yes.
So people know that sometimes, yes.
Hey, I'm curious, Tina, you talk about kind of always being entrepreneurs, you and your husband, and do you remember growing up as a kid? Because it sounds like you guys were involved in quite a bunch of different things, right? What was that like growing up as the daughter to parents that were entrepreneurs?
Oh, that's a great question. It was fantastic. I think my parents really showed me the value of hard work while still being able to be present. So it wasn't never had that pull of my parents are working all the time and that's why they can't make my soccer games. They can't come support this. And yet I also was lucky enough that we got to go shopping at Limited 2 every new school year and just do as much as we wanted and really set that framework that it is okay to want money as long as you're wanting it for the right things.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a culture right now that unfortunately has kind of shit on making money, right? They've almost made it a bad thing to want and like money. But I like the second thing that you said about as long as you're doing it for the right reasons. I remember hearing a long time ago, money is something that just makes you more of who you already are. And I'll never forget that, right? If you're a big asshole and now you got a lot of money, you're just a bigger asshole. Right? But if you've got a servant's heart, and by the way, one of the things I picked up when I first met you, Tina, is I'd say servant's heart is a good way to describe it. Like, I think guys, you're seeing her, and hearing her, but when you have the ability to spend a little time with her, you see that that's really where her heart is. And I think that that's an amazing place to parent from as well. And so I love that perspective though, like, because, when you're, like, I'm thinking about it now with my kids, right? Where they see, daddy's gone a lot, right? And, as I continue to do more in the entrepreneurial space, like that, my time might become even more finite for a period of time, right? Sure. And so, Ed Milet talks about it's caught, not taught. And I like that. Like, I like that I don't always have to teach the lesson, and just, he sees daddy getting up and exercising every day or going to work. And I think later on in life, those lessons kind of come full circle, and hopefully my son and daughter are going, oh, that's what was going on. Yeah. Do you feel like that's happened for you, where it's like, oh, wow, like they were gone a lot, but also it gave us this incredible ability to do things that maybe other kids weren't able to do?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, it did and it didn't, right? Like, you always, my parents have given me such a great life, and there's always things you think you want to do a little bit differently. And so for me to make the leap into entrepreneurship was really difficult. I think for many, many years, my mom was like, hey, you should do this. And I know that we could be a good team together. But we always also, my dad, with them both being entrepreneurs, he worked 2 jobs. He had his construction business, and then he was a mail carrier. So we had that base. And so I was in the education field, and I was very addicted to that just 8 to 5. I'm in education, so I'm not making great money, but it was, enough. And I was really, really hesitant about making that leap. I liked being able to say, this is my salary at the end of the year, and I can budget accordingly and make it work. And then
not as easy to do in our world.
I want to talk about that a little bit, because there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this and listening to this that, they're in a similar place, right? There's somebody that they might have a great job, but in the back of their mind, there's that calling, there's that itch, there's that, God, I know I'm capable of more, but I feel stuck, and I don't know what to do about it, how to go about it, who to talk to. And I think because of that, there's a lot of people that are struggling right now. So talk to us a little bit more about like your thinking around that time. So you were a teacher, what grade?
I was actually a director of early childhood education.
Okay.
And I've done a lot of thinking about what happened over that period of time. Honestly, I think in many ways I was the universe sort of pushed me into it. Rather, whatever you believe in, rather it was prayer and the silver linings of it all. I was a new mom. I had a 1-year-old son, and just after he turned 1, right before Christmas, I just started getting hit with some bombs. I overheard a conversation. My sister had drove by my house and called my parents, and I happened to be at their house at the time. And there was a SWAT car and about 6 police cars. And I found out that my son's father was in custody for something, and we didn't know what it was. And at that time, we were both living kind of our simple life. He had a good job. I had a good job. We had a little kiddo, and we were getting by just fine. And all of a sudden, that changed really, really quickly. I later that night went to the Lakewood police station and found out he had been involved in a road rage incident. And it was after a hunting trip or setting up for hunting. He was facing multiple charges and years in prison. I think, God, I don't even remember what the number was. I don't know why they give you a number for those things. It was like 300 years. So life, basically.
Did you say you were pregnant, or you had just given birth?
I had a 1-year-old. So, yep, he was about 1.
Okay.
And
you just came home from something, and saw the cop cars?
Well, we were actually on Christmas break.
Okay.
It's probably 3 days before Christmas, I think. He was leaving his job and then was planning on doing some hunting with some friends. So I don't know. I'm not in the hunting world. He was like setting up geese or something, I think.
Okay.
And some of that's his story to tell. But yeah, I was actually right here off of 6th Avenue. And, you know, to rewind a bit, I think I noticed as his partner, he was struggling, in my opinion, with some mental health issues and becoming just a little bit more stressed and agitated than I had known him to be. And yeah, he fired his weapon at a few different vehicles during this road rage incident. He is currently still incarcerated. And, you know, luckily he had a very smart mother as well who helped him purchase a home when he was 18 years old. And we had a lot of equity in that home. So, you know, working our mediocre jobs, we didn't have a ton of savings, but we had equity in the home that allowed us to afford not the most expensive lawyer, but a good lawyer that was, you know, upwards of $100K. But when you're facing that many years in prison, it's well worth it.
Yeah, it's priceless.
Right? Yeah. So everything shifted really, really quickly in that moment of just
Do you remember what
chaos.
you were feeling in that moment or those few days? Was it just panic, fear?
I think it was shock initially. I went to anger really quickly. When I first talked to the detective, I remember just being angry at myself because I had kind of noticed some signs before, and I was trying to get him involved with some mental health and talking to family members. So I was kind of mad at myself, like, oh, I saw these signs and I didn't do something about it, and now here we are. I was kind of angry at him because there was just this, like, how are you not thinking about our futures and our lives and the consequences of what doing something like that is going to involve. And I went through all kinds of, right, and then empathy and then sadness and scared and all of the things for over that, like, 3-day period where we weren't speaking with each other, of just feeling all the different emotions. And then there was just a lot. At that time, I think my survival mechanism kind of kicked in. And it was, I need to keep myself safe. I need to keep my son safe. I need to try to hold together this family that we've created. He lost his job, so I need to financially be the one that's supporting us, and do all of that. And then just more bombs kept dropping. It ended up that we ended our relationship. He met his now wife, and that was sort of a final straw for me. And
Did you meet her in jail?
no, he was out on parole for a while, and when we moved out of our houses, and he temporarily moved in with a friend.
Okay.
Found support.
Yeah, found some support, and we're actually all surprisingly really close now. We go to soccer games together for my own son, and
By the way, that is incredible, and thanks for sharing that story. It's like I can feel you when you share that story and what that must have been like. And even now, as you talk about it, bringing back memories, and it's bringing up some feelings. And you know, I've been through a divorce, and one thing that I'm proud of now, and it's awesome to hear you talk about it. But yeah, if she was here, I think we'd both say that we both respect each other, and there's sort of this mutual love, not in the same way, but just mutual love for each other. And I think that's awesome to have that. Not everybody has that, and especially after having gone through what you went through during that time. And so, was it during that time that you started to think about, because you're in the survival mode. You're kind of going, well, shit. Okay, we got the house. Do I need to sell it? What do I do? By the way, when did you call your mother and tell her all this went down? Like, when did she find out about it?
I was actually she was the one that got the call.
Oh, okay. So you found out about it first.
My sister had randomly drove by our house, and my son.
Was this like the one call he got kind of thing, or who called you?
So it was my younger sister called my mom.
Oh,
she had randomly, just by happenstance, drove by the house and was like, what's going on? Talked to the police officers. They told her what was going on. So she called my mom and was like, is Tanya with you? I don't know. There's lots happening at her house. And I think he walked away and took that. And then she came over and everybody was like, somebody tell me why there's so much emotion. So I wouldn't have found out had she not just been driving home from work and been like, I passed by your house and stuff is happening.
And as a mother, to get that phone call and to now know you have a responsibility to share something with your daughter, but wanting to I'm just curious, walk us through that mental piece for yourself, because I would imagine as a parent, you're like, I love my daughter and I know this is going to crush her. How do I soften the blow?
Ooh, good questions there.
Wow. Yeah, it was like Tanya said, getting news like that, it was a shock to all of our systems. And, you have my daughter, my grandson, my future son-in-law is in jail, and we really don't know why at this time. And I remember when we finally found out what his charges were, what he was being held for, which took a few days. It was pretty intense. And, his mom had been staying at her house a couple of days. It was like Tanya said, it was right before Christmas. We were all planning on being together. And when we finally got the news, I just remember that Tanya just slid down the wall and broke. And she's very resilient. She's always been a very resilient person and child. And I knew, this is big. This is gonna take a lot of time and a lot of healing and a lot of work to get through all of this. And for me, it's you support each other in all the ways you can, whatever those are. You let someone talk, you let them cry, you just be there for what they need. And that's what family is. You support each other the best ways you can, So they stayed with us as much as they could. We took it one day and one step at a time. You move out of that house, you get another place. She switched her job. She got a little bit better pay for a little while before COVID came to town. We just worked through it one day at a time. But mostly, any tragedies that happen to someone that close to you, you just have to give a lot of love and time and support.
Well, and I think it's important what you said when you go through something traumatic, whatever it is. If you're going through a divorce, you have a situation like this come up. Some advice that you gave me was we're here for you, and it's just one foot in front of the other, day after day. I'm such a planner, so I remember writing down okay, so option A is this, option B is this. Here's how can we? Let's look at the whole spectrum here of how we can handle that. Oh yeah, right. I think the very next day I was contacting the people I know. Okay, I know we need a lawyer. I'm not sure what for. Let's start interviewing them. So yeah, it was a lot of strategicness while still trying to address my emotions as much as I could. I think in that moment, I wasn't really addressing them because I went into survival so quick. It was actually later that I came back with
How much time later?
Maybe a year or two, honestly.
Okay. So first it was just shock, awe. What do I do with my life and money? And I've got this 1-year-old baby that I'm in love with, and now daddy's not around. How did you? 1 year old, was there any sort of, or now, yeah, how do you explain that, I guess?
Yeah.
And before you answer that, are you able to share what the charges were brought against him at the time?
Yeah, I haven't spoke about it outside of like close friends and family. And part of that was out of respect to the other members of the story. And it was an ongoing investigation for 2 years.
Wow.
So it was a long process before he was actually, and he's...
It sounds like there was more than just road rage then.
Yeah, well, he had a firearm in the car that he fired at someone else. Thank God didn't hit them, didn't injure them. And also fired at another vehicle that, as far as we know, was not part of it at all.
Right.
So he is currently incarcerated for 2 attempted murder charges. There was also, I think they dropped like menacing with a deadly weapon and some other things that were dropped, and he got sentenced to 10 years total. Yes.
10 to 30, I thought. And then...
I'm pretty sure I want to say 10 years. And then with that, I'm learning a lot about the system for the most part on working his way through. He started in like a medium security. Now he's in like what's called minimum restrictive.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a challenge I never thought I would have as a mother. I thought I was so prepared to be a mom. I have a degree in educational management. I worked with young children. I was like, I am so prepared for this. And then it was like, hey, well, are you prepared for this? And so yeah, explaining it to Eli has been interesting. And it's been just in an age-appropriate way.
He's had a therapist.
He's 6. He's 6 now. Yep. And I put him in therapy when he was probably about 2.5, 3. And just giving him that outlet of like a place to speak to someone. I think even with our separation, that was important for him to not only hear from me, the story and where things were at. So
what a remarkable woman you've raised.
She's pretty incredible.
I mean, to be able to say that is incredible. To be able to actually say, I want my son to also have the opportunity to hear the other side of the story. I don't think most people can do that. And so I applaud you for that. That's amazing, Tanya.
Thank you. Yeah. So explaining it to him now, he knows that his dad is in jail.
They talk.
And we do video visits, and he gets phone calls. One thing I learned from my own therapist, like talking about how to best mother him in this situation, is I try to make sure I talked about his dad, not just because it happened when he was so young.
Sure. Yeah.
Of like talking about who his dad is outside of that, because at 6 kids, minds are so concrete. Like bad guys go to jail, and yet our dads are superheroes, and so that's a very juxtaposition for him. And he certainly, my dad can do this. Did you know my dad can do this? The new thing is he's found out that Airheads are his dad's favorite candy.
They're the best candy. I don't think his dad's alone in that. I think a lot of people probably think Airheads are amazing.
So he's certainly working that angle. He's like, so can we get Airheads? Because those are my dad's favorites, so I should be able to get an Airhead a day. And I'm like, all right, this is the connection we have, and we'll eat some Airheads. But yeah, so it was that was a really trying time. And as if all of that wasn't bad enough, I was then laid off from my job. So then we went from 2 incomes to 0 income.
Because that was COVID.
Well, a couple months before, and then COVID hit, and then as everybody knows, the whole world was, and I think that's when I really started to process my emotions, where it was just like, okay, I have to take a step back here and pay attention to what's happening around me and where my role is in it, and not just think with my brain. I've always been let's tackle this tactfully, and embracing a little bit, while still very much being tactful, but embracing what feels right. And years before, my mom has wanted to go into business with me forever because she's such an entrepreneurial spirit. When I moved back from college, she was like, let's open up a daycare. We could be a great team. Let's do this. And she had gotten her real estate license, talked to me about it. And I there's shower moments. I don't know if anybody else has shower moments, but I remember like the exact moment that she had talked to me about it. And I was like, yeah, maybe we'll see. I'm exploring what my options are right now. And I was just in there and I was like, yeah, it's time to do this. And I called her as soon as I got out and I was like, yep, I want to get my license. And again, the supportive people, she's like, let's do it. Your dad and I can, keep an eye on Eli while you're getting your license and going to school and learning everything.
Was this more a driving force within you to pursue and maybe live vicariously through your daughter, or was it something you had recognized in her, and it could be both, but something you recognized in her where you're like, I just know because I'm her mother that she could be phenomenal at this, and you knew you would kind of kill two birds with one stone?
Yeah, I think it was probably the combination. When Tanya ended up being a single mom, I was raised by a single mom, and I know the challenges in that road, and I just let her take her own time at it. And I had wanted to be in real estate for years, but I also wanted to be a mom first, and I did childcare and a lot of other things because their dad did work at the post office and he was an entrepreneur. He had his own business, and I felt it was important that one of us was always available. And so, yeah, I had wanted real estate for myself and got my license way before, when Tanya was like, nope, I'm going to do this 9 to 5, and that's my world, Mom. I'm like, all right.
I've always been stubborn.
Yeah, always.
Too.
But, so, yeah, when she called and said, Mom, I was taking a shower, and I think I want to do this, yeah, I was definitely excited because I know the person that she is, and I also knew, being a single mom, that being in real estate would give her the opportunities to make a better living for herself and her son, and also provide her some flexibility so that she could also be there for him at those soccer games and the part of life that's really what we're living for, right? And yeah, both of us doing, being in it together, it's like, I support her as a mom. She supports me as an aging mom just as well. It's a different world we all live in now. So she handles all the technology. Honestly, Tanya's probably 70% or more of our business. Yeah, I just think life works well when we, and I was telling her, we're big and we've always been about family, and just like everything else in our world, what family looks like has changed over the last 50 years. But
Your family or just in general?
Families in general. They're made up of a lot of different things, right? I mean, a family can be just, to me, family is the people that you connect with, that you love and you support. That's your family. It doesn't have to be your blood family. Families look all kinds of different ways. But when you can work together, whether it's in a business or just in life in general, and when you combine the two and you're loving and supporting each other through life, it's a beautiful thing.
Which is amazing. You're blessed, and it's an amazing perspective, but there's also the other side of that coin where a lot of people go, I would never get into business with my family. I don't know if you guys knew this, but and I don't remember the exact percentage, but I don't know if it's the majority or if it's we'd have to fact check me on this, but as far as legacy and wealth being left behind for generations to come, the majority of that story is through businesses owned by family members, not businesses owned by, like somebody else outside of the family.
Exactly.
But for the person that says, well, I'd never go into business with my family, like, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I guess I would say create a family that you can, then. Because we live in a world, and it's just true, divide. I mean, I don't know who said, united we stand, divided we fall, You're just always going to be able to build more, greater, bigger lives if you support each other in some capacity, whatever that is for you. So, yeah, if you don't want to go into business with your family, then create a new family. That would be my answer, I guess.
Yeah.
And support each other the best you can.
It sort of segues your version of just family can be a family you choose. It can be the family you're raised with. There's blended families. There's so many different types of families now.
Right.
I do think that working with people that you've known for a long time, rather it's since birth in our case, or people that have been, your friends, you've went to school together, there's a different way of doing business where you're leading with your heart in everything. And when you're letting your heart lead you and letting your mind support that, the outcome is just that much better. And it's more beautiful internally for other people to show them that. And you see the benefits on the financial side of that too. Which then in turn, like we talked about, like then money isn't a bad thing. Then you can do great things with what you have. Like my mother and I, part of our story comes from single moms. So we have aligned with this project ICU, which is a nonprofit we're really excited about.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, we have pledged to raise at least $10,000 this year to help a single mother have home ownership. And they also work with women entrepreneurs and businesses.
Oh, cool. How did you find the organization?
Just word of mouth. We knew that we wanted to do something more than what we were doing with our business. We wanted to just find something that really, really drives us. And so we kind of went into a deep dive about what we were passionate about and started having conversations with other people about what they were passionate about. Found this organization, again, with me and my research brain. I went crazy on Google, finding everything out I could about them. I went to some meetings and just decided, we're going to align with this. And
God, you could be a spokesperson for that company.
Yes.
With your story?
Yeah.
Holy cow, what an amazing...
I'm so excited about it.
It's a beautiful, and it's a fairly new organization. Started in the Dominican Republic, I believe, and then came into Denver and, supported some women-owned businesses through COVID, and then somehow got into, this supporting women with their, single women with their, home ownership and that, like you said, that opportunity to start a legacy that you can pass to the next generation. And for a lot of these women, it's an opportunity that they never thought they'd see. They've been in low-income housing their entire lives.
So is the idea to raise this money for their down payment kind of a thing?
Yeah,
you say $10,000, you figure...
Yeah, the company, I believe, we're trying to, as a ICU is trying to raise, what,
240,000 is the goal for this year.
So there's a lot of groups, but our Freed family will do 10,000 this year.
Okay.
So it's up to $10,000. I think what I really, really love about it is it's not just a handout. It's not a, hey, here you go, you get a free house. As we know, especially in Colorado, affordability is an issue. And when you're doing that on one income, it's not you still have to have a good paying job. You still have to save up. But it's just kind of pushing you over the fence when you just need that little bit of an edge.
Things have become so expensive that even if somebody makes great money, sometimes great money is still not enough to save, right? You can have a great job where you're making 150 plus a year and you're still I can't save, right? Especially if you have kids and car payments and whatever, inflation. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, you still got to eat.
Yeah. And by the way, just so everybody knows, milk prices get all the things that are more money, they're never going back, right?
Right.
Companies aren't going to reverse that, which means we got to find ways to make more money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but what a cool organization. How can people find that organization, and then we'll make sure you give out your how they find you as well.
Yeah. Just through an easy Google search, you can find Project ICU. It's cool. See with your eyes.
But if they want to donate specifically to Freed Family Properties, how can they find you on social?
So there's a link on my social. Tanya Freed is my Instagram handle.
Okay.
And I can also give you a link, and even through their website, there's a list of about 24 captains, and you'll see our picture of Freed Family Properties, which then takes you to our donation page.
Okay.
And then through that donation page, you also can see some pictures of some of the women in our lives that are up on that website, so that's fun. And we're also going to be hosting some different events, setting up like a newsletter for people that are interested in it. I always in real estate have been big on not spamming people because I personally hate being spammed. So it's something that sharing information about those events is for people that say, hey, I'm interested, I want to come to your event, I support this project, and then I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to give, I grew up in Lakewood, Colorado, so I know a lot of people, and not everybody aligns with my cause, so I'm not just email blasting, hey, I want some of your money to help single women. How do you feel?
I hope we can get you some donations, but I feel like my audience may not be the single women in need kind of audience necessarily, but you never know. Hopefully, I mean, money doesn't discriminate, so I feel like, talk a little bit about how you guys found the organization. Like, what were you guys thinking about prior to like investigating some sort of charity or cause to work with? Like, where did that originate from?
Well, I've always supported like St. Jude's, I think is
okay.
We have a children's organization in Thailand that, my husband and I have supported for years. Tanya used to write letters to one of the little girls we used to support in Spanish. And she was the only one that spoke Spanish well and could write it in the family. So, we've always tried to, give something back. And like I said, just children and families in general have always been at our heart. As when we got into real estate, like you said, there's a lot of there can be a lot of money in it, and there's a lot of, and we were just like, that's fine. And we want, obviously, the more of that you have, the more you can give, the more you can contribute, the more you can make a difference in your own life and in other people's lives. But we wanted to connect with something that, through our business, that's also our heart. That's where we want to work. We're in real estate because we want to support people in their, I am a firm believer that real estate is a way to build wealth for your family, for yourself, and for generations to come. And so we just wanted to connect with organizations and places that were doing that on a larger scale.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think it also aligns with just sort of our tagline that we truly believe of inspired living. And we started looking at what does that mean to us, and diving into my story, into my mom's story, and what aligns with that, and saying, okay, we've came from some darkness and came out on the other side, and are now fortunate enough to be in our own space that we want to give back to when someone's feeling like they're hopeless and they don't have the ability to be a homeowner and they're just disparaged. No, you can be, and there is a path. And one of the great things about the organization is it's not just a here you go, here's $10,000. It's a whole program of teaching people financial literacy and things that maybe they didn't have from their family.
And they have to meet those check marks to get the scholarship.
So, it was just, again, I think the universe supports things. So we started looking and talking, and then before you know it, some various things came through our path, and we kind of went through different options and thought, we're in a space now where we're doing well enough that we personally can get this started, and we will align with our own clientele and people that also believe in giving back, and that this abundance mindset, that you're not just stuck here and it's make sure you don't help out the people down there, because there's a level of everyone goes through a point in their life where they just need a little nudge. And if you're in a position where you're able to do that, I got a little nudge from my mom during everything that was going on with me, that if I didn't have that nudge, if I didn't have the family support, I don't know where I would be. And not everybody has people in their life that can do that. Not everybody has a family support system that I've been fortunate enough to grow up with.
So you got to create one.
So you
Some
create
people
one.
do it through
So-
ICU.
Yeah.
There you go. So I want to talk a little bit about. So if we can rewind a little bit back to, I mean, you shared just an incredible story. But if somebody's listening and they've got their own version of that, that they're in it right now, right? And I think it's, like hitting rock bottom, right, can be different for everybody, right? Or, but let's say they're in it and they're searching. They're not, they haven't decided to give up, but they just don't know what to do. Like, what would you say to that person, and what are some suggestions you might have for the person that, wants to do something, but they just don't know where to start? And then in addition to that, I want to touch on belief around the universe. You've mentioned the universe a couple times, and I'm a big metaphysical guy. I want to talk a little bit about universe and abundance and all that. But for the person that's going, man, I just don't know, I'm hopeless.
It's a beautiful question. I think the fact that they're still in the searching spot is a step in the right direction to begin with, right? Like, there really is no total hopeless. And like celebrating your own wins, no matter how small they are, in those moments of I'm lost. Rather, it's like, today I don't even feel like taking a shower, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to take a shower. And then I did it. And I'm at least going to take a pencil and write down what some of my options are. And maybe I'm not ready to take those steps towards those options, but every small step is a step, and you're going to take a small step forward and then a couple steps back sometimes. But there's this level of perseverance that I think all humans have, that when you're at rock bottom, you realize, like, all right, well, I'm pretty sure I can only go up from here. And maybe there's times it's like, nope, just kidding, there's even worse, just wait, you can get there. But in the moments of being in that, know that you have the strength within yourself to bring yourself out of it, even if it's in like the simplest of ways. If it's going outside and enjoying the sunshine, I can speak, or whatever lights you up, and go about it to a way that's authentic to you. Like, so for me, when I was in a struggling period of time, it was literally like old school drawing circles of here's where I'm at, and here are a couple paths to get to places I want to be, because I don't like where I'm at. And that's how my brain works, and that's the way I did it. But for somebody else, it might be prayer, it might be meditation, it might be calling a friend or family member, it might be hitting the gym and just going so hard that you've got all those endorphins. So like, align with what the old version of you that you knew and liked, align with that, and you'll eventually find that version again.
That's a great answer. Great answer. Did faith or prayer or the universe, did any of that play a part in that period of time for you?
Yeah.
Because by the way, I agree with what you said. I think everybody has it within themselves. I also think it's okay to pray and maybe rely on a higher power or God or something outside of yourself to help you in those moments as well, where you don't have to feel like you're all alone, because you're not. And I'm just curious, like, if prayer, meditation, or faith has played a part in your life at all.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up going to church, so I definitely had
Christian, Catholic?
Non-denominational Christian. We went to
Okay.
Faith Bible Chapel.
Okay.
I have off like 44th and Ward.
Shout out.
Faith Bible Chapel. What's up? And so, yeah, like going to church and getting those messages were important. Of course, during all that time, towards the end of it, then there was COVID. So then we were watching things on TV. So that played a big part. I did listen to a lot of K-Love, which is a Christian radio station, and songs. It was hard for me to tap into my emotions, And I also felt like I had to be so strong in front of my family and my child specifically. But the few moments I had alone in the car, there was a few songs that I would play that I knew would make me cry my eyes out, but I needed to cry my eyes out. So, yeah, there was a couple ones that came in.
You just play them just because you want to cry your eyes out?
It's interesting to listen to those songs now in a different stage of life and realize, like, I can listen to this and it's not like this visceral feeling. Like, it's still a remembrance, but I think that's that other side of it where you're like, oh, I now feel comfortable talking about this because there's still emotion attached to it, but I'm not in it. So I can hear some of those and be like, oh, yeah.
Well,
I was sad. I was angry. And,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What would you say, Tina, to that question? Like somebody that's struggling, that is looking for a way out, but they don't really know where to start. And how would you help that person?
Well, I think I've always had faith in God. I was raised that way, and although it has shifted and changed over the years, my family a lot of them were Southern Baptists, which is not where I'm at these days. But faith, and like Tanya said, in music, the arts, like you got to find that authentic what connects you, what gives you strength. And for all of us, like you said, we all have it, but there's something, it's not always the same for all of us. You got to take those moments to be with yourself and be true to yourself about who you are, where you are. And before I was so low here, where was I and how can I get there? Well, the way I'm going to get there is by going inside myself and finding out what it is that's going to give me that. And for me, it was faith. A lot of times when I've had my hard times in life, it's been that deep down faith in the higher power that is within me, and I know is for me. That I know that if I persevere, I can do whatever I need to do, and so can we all. We all have that, but you gotta dig deep to find it sometimes, especially when the cards are not in your favor.
Stacked against you.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about belief around the universe, because you've made a couple references that you didn't say it in this way, but sort of, to me, embodied law of attraction. And so I'm curious, especially now that you're in business, right, where my personal opinion is that so much of what we do as people living in the world, but especially entrepreneurs or people that can control their own income, so much of it is energy. But I think we like to believe that we're these intellectual creatures that can and we can do that and figure it out. But I think that what's not talked about a lot is the energy component, and like who we are as a human being contributes in a lot of ways to the success we see, or the lack of, in our business. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Me first?
Sure.
Oh, wow. So that, I think, is something I have came to terms with over the last 5 to 10 years. My whole family has been really big into it, especially my sister does my older sister does some life coaching, and
Cool.
It was something I was a little hesitant. I was like, here they go, doing a new moon ceremony again. Okay, people are going to think we're like witches. I don't know.
Are you? I've been curious.
His ancestors might have been.
But, and I believe that there is, at some point, there's going to be some mathematical, scientific way of explaining that energy. But right now, at least from my understanding of it, is just that it exists and that it works. And I have to learn to accept the fact that I don't know exactly how. I just have seen enough stories within myself and with friends and family members, other entrepreneurs, that it absolutely, there is absolutely some sort of law of attraction belief that things will work out, and they do. And that I think it's a combination of it all. You can't just say, well, I'm just going to put it out there. I hope that I make $200K this year, and then sit on your butt and just hope things. Like, you still have to strategize and bring some of that to it. But if you really believe it in your heart, and it's so hard to like put the words to it, but you put that energy, for lack of a better word, out there, and you pay attention to the signs that are around you, right? There's that whole like quote that life is 98% how you deal with something and 2% what happens to you. And for so much of my life, I focused on the 98% because that's the part I can control. And yet 98% is not 100%. So if you can be that much better by paying attention to the 2% of what is just happening to you, that I think is where that law of attraction and universe is coming into play. And you can ignore it for only so long. You know, your father's son can go to jail, and you can go through a separation and lose your job, and a national pandemic can hit, and you can be like, I'm sticking the path. Or you can say, wait a second, maybe all of these things are piling on top of me for a reason, that I need to step back and reevaluate my life. I mean, I knew from the time I was in second grade, I'm going to be a wife, a mom, and work in education. That was my path, and I was there. Second grade, 100%. I used to read Parent Magazine. That was like my favorite thing to read.
Wow.
And there were, so then I was like, cool, I'm doing it. I'm in education. I'm going to be a wife and a mom, and
that actually all came true.
It did. It all came true, and then it all shifted and changed. And I'm actually getting married this June. I'm going to be a wife, and
exciting.
I'm a mom, and I absolutely love it. And in some ways, I'm still in education because I'm in real estate, and there's a lot of educating involved in real estate. But there's a level of, you have your own plan, but you have to listen to the universe as well, and what signals and signs it's giving you. And don't be afraid to tap into your intuition and your emotions, and follow that, and let it partner with your intellect.
Have you ever seen The Secret?
Oh, yep. When I was what?
Oh, yeah.
Again, they were hippies, so it was.
I bought that book package. Oh, yeah.
Have you watched the DVD?
Oh, yeah.
DVD. Like they have DVD.
It was a DVD. I gave it to my
book back then, and like I said, I've had faith my whole life, and it's just shifted and changed. But I definitely have seen The Secret, and I definitely, there's a place where you come to know yourself well enough that you put out what like Tanya said, it's kind of like that coming from your heart space, but you're also connecting that to that higher power, that universe, that energy that's there, that we all have the ability to grab, but it's like, again, that you gotta, that's an individual thing. You gotta realize, oh yeah, I did feel that energy, and we all do, when you walk in a room and something's off, you just feel it. And if you're still enough, which we live in a world where it's really hard to get still enough to feel energy, right? Because we got so much coming at us. But if we can just quiet down long enough to feel it, it's there, and it's powerful. And whatever you align with, if you align yourself and you align it with that energy, it can be. It can be. And that's a big statement. We all have a big story, and we go through what we go through in life, and at my tender age of, going to be 60. Old as dirt here coming up. The older you get, the more you realize that, it's all about tapping into that energy, and the energy of all the people around us, and realizing that strength in numbers, guys. So pull together, and, and connect with the energy.
Yeah.
Because it will pull us all through these pandemic and all the things we go through. If we come together, we can do big things, really big things. But you got to connect with yourself in the universe, or your higher power, whatever that is.
That's cool. Well, thanks for being here. Yeah. Oh, and just last comment on that. So in The Secret, and guys, if nobody's gone to see that, or if you haven't watched that, I would highly recommend it. It was probably my first introduction to the law of attraction, and I think then it sort of became a little more mainstream, and then of course there was this surge of like, it's like positive thinking bullshit that doesn't work, right? And so I appreciate your comment about like actually doing the footwork, right? Like you could be a positive thinker or believe in law of attraction or not believe it. It works either way. But Bob Proctor talks about, there's a scene in that movie where he says, look, too many people, like if you're in debt, you're focused on whether you're in debt or out of debt. If you're focused on debt, you're just going to get more of that. What you should be doing is setting up an automatic repayment plan and focus on prosperity, because then you'll get that. And there's a lot of great sound bites and just moments in that where it makes me want to go back and watch it every now and then. But and then being still, right? I read this book a while ago called 10% Happier by this guy named I think Dan Harris is the author, 10% Happier, and it's all about, I think he was like a news anchor, and he had a total meltdown live on the air. And now in the book he talks about, oh shit, I don't think we anticipated the alarm going off. Will you just unplug it for me? So he was a news anchor, had a total meltdown and freak out moment, and then he wrote this book, 10% Happier, and it was his journey around like being anti-meditation, then becoming skeptical, then becoming investigative, then eventually going on like a huge week-long meditation retreat, and it changed his whole life. But his sort of synopsis is that meditation makes you about 10% happier, and that he can't really explain it, but that there's just something about it that allows you to receive. And I think when you're in business or an entrepreneur or in sales or something where there's a lot of output, right? So I think it's important to take the time to have some input and really be still and listen. And sometimes it's easier said than done. But
yeah, but it's all habits, right? It's all habits, and we can change them. Whatever habit you've had, if you're determined, you can change that habit. And this one knows. I mean, that's my habit. Every morning, it's a cold shower. First.
Cold shower. Have you done cold plunge?
Cold plunges, yep. When I have them, I would love to have a plunge at my house. But for now, I have cold showers at my house.
So one extra house, you can buy one.
And then it's meditation, and the whole rest of the world waits. This one. I gotta get this in. Yeah. I don't do anything else today. I gotta connect to my God and my. We all need that.
Yeah, so. I agree. Well. Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. This was fun. I know we could just keep going and talk forever. And thank you for sharing that with us. That was amazing. Yes. All right. So how can people find you? I know you said it earlier, but why don't you say it again on social?
Yep. So my Instagram handle is just Tanya Freed.
At Tanya Freed.
Tanya Freed.
Freed.
F-R-E as in elephant, E as in elephant, D as in Delta. We'll change it up.
Got it.
And then, we have Facebook as Freed Family Properties.
Cool.
Since we've always been about family, we've got Freed Family Properties, we have Freed Family Construction, we had Freed Family Preschool. It's always been figuring out our name pretty easy. So Freed Family Properties and
freedom. That's what we're about.
Instagram.
Freedom. I love it.
My TikTok handle is same Tanya Freed _realtor _mom.
Okay. Yes. TikTok. Got to check it out.
Got to check out my TikTok.
Tina, are you on social?
I have a Facebook and I have, an Instagram, and this one, gets on there. Like I said, your generation is the technology and the. So yeah, I'm kind of a wingman on it. I need to do more of it, but you can always reach me through Tanya. I'm her support.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and being realtors, our phone numbers and our phones are always on. Even right now, they're just on silent because we're on a podcast. So phone number for me is 303-868 6363, which I've had since I was 13.
You sure you want to give that out?
Giving it out. It's all over the internet and the world already, so
Good.
there we go.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Turn that loss to a check. Every time that I see a limit, what? I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first, the one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck. Nah, I had to plan it. The way I work is out of this earth.